What's up, y'all? This is the 425 National Podcast. You can find me on Twitter at Coach Torres _. You can find Jeremy on Twitter at Coach Miller. 06 coming to y'all from fresh off of championship weekend. We had a conference championships crowned over the weekend. We got the playoff matchups going. Jeremy, where do you want to start today, man?
USC fumbling the bag.
Fumbling the
Oh,
bag. Definition, right? The definition
yeah.
of fumbling the bag.
I mean, every game that Lincoln Riley's played in that he like needed the win, they lose.
Yeah,
It
man.
just something that is. I'm kind of willing to give um their defensive coordinator Alex Grinch like a mulligan because I need to see what he can do with like actual like legit 4 and 5 stars everywhere
Yeah.
on defense. But I mean, what we saw on Saturday was just I've seen like some really poor Texas teams tackle that badly, and those teams went like 6 and 7. So they need to fix that.
Yeah, man. That the what you saw on Friday night, like you said, was like that's what like the bad football I watched looks like.
Yeah,
And they're out west. Like I haven't watched much USC defense. I've seen quite a bit of the offense. Obviously the USC UCLA game was like back and forth. No one was stopping anybody. But
yeah,
yeah, a lot of the tackling and like the simple, like not so small detail things bit them in the ass. And Utah being as consistent as they are year in and year out, they know who they are, they know who they want to be, and they generally achieve that. They really just went into Vegas and whooped their ass.
yeah. I mean, it's the second year in a row that they go into the Pac-12 championship game and just completely mollywop who they're playing because Utah is kind of built. Kyle Willingham has that program built to where we're a tough football team, and you better. We may not run it, we may throw it some more than most physical teams do, but we're gonna pound you for 4 quarters, and we'll see if you're up for it. And USC just got out to a big lead, and they're just, I don't know if they thought they had it in the bag but I mean, Utah just slow and steady wins the race, and they came out on top. And man, really liked the way Cam finished his season.
Yep.
I'm sure he's going to the NFL next year, and yeah, he's going to be fun to evaluate. I've been kind of up and down on him all year. But I've always liked him as a player, and I really think I'm going to like him during the draft process the more I watch.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that has like all of the intangibles, like, and he's got the intangibles. But as
Yeah.
far as accuracy and touch and arm strength and all and mobility and all that stuff, like we'll get into that later. But yeah, he's one of those guys where, if you put his intangibles in like a CJ Stroud or something, you're like, holy shit, this dude's day one A1, but not quite there
Yeah.
physically. Yeah, it's you could definitely before that game you could see USC winning the ball game just based off of how they're playing and what they're capable of. But like I said, with Utah knowing who they are, they went in there, they weathered that little storm, that 17-3 lead, and then from there the dam just broke. Really, like you said,
Yeah.
I don't know if USC thought they had it in the bag or if it was one of those things where Utah just made a couple adjustments and got into their groove. Like obviously they made some plays, but um,
Yeah.
all props to them. And Cody, will you pull up Utah's schedule? I don't know who their other losses were to off the top of my head, and it's honestly unfortunate that they have those losses because with that showing they had, like I wouldn't want to see them in the playoff.
Yeah. They lost to Florida and
Oh
then,
yeah, fucking week one.
yeah, they lost to Florida. They lost to UCLA and Oregon.
UCLA
I
and Oregon.
mean,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, two legitimate losses there. They play that Florida game anywhere other than the Swamp in August, and it's a much different outcome.
yeah,
But
most likely.
yeah, but alas, you got to win. Yeah, man. Where we heading from there? What do you want to talk next?
Yeah, in the Conference USA, UTSA, Coach Jeff Traylor, formerly of Gilmer High School, a longtime head coach in East Texas, has them with their second back-to-back conference championship, and now they're moving on to a different conference, the American.
Moving on up.
Should be another challenge for them, but it's really surprising that they moved up as quick as they did. But San Antonio is a pretty big city, so I guess I shouldn't be that surprised. And
Yeah,
with their
like
success in football, it's gonna have profitability to translate to other programs as well.
yeah. I mean, they played North Texas, correct?
Yeah,
So, you and I always talk about those mid-major programs and how like we would love to take over somewhere like that and just win with the kids like from that area and whatnot. So like the difference between San Antonio football and Dallas football, there's I mean, you tell me, you're the Texan here, like there's probably some level of difference, but as far as
yeah,
like who gets off the ground and who can actually do that and like stack wins and stack seasons, I think that all goes back to like support and
yeah,
if you have the AD backing and if you guys have any money, for a mid major, because most teams that aren't high level Division 1 are still gonna barely make a profit if they do make a profit. So yeah, I think that all comes down to like I said, just a support system you got around, and obviously if you can recruit, and everybody loves Jeff Traylor, man. Like I ain't
yeah,
never seen anyone say a bad word about the dude.
yeah. He's a phenomenal football coach and just a good dude, and he's a hell of a recruiter. And I want to see how long he stays there because with them moving to the American, I could see him staying for a couple more years. But
Yeah, for sure.
I would love to see him at a school like Houston. I think it'd be very difficult to pull kids out of the state of Houston or the city of Houston if he was the head coach there.
Yeah, man.
But it's I just wanted to shout out him because I've long been an admirer of his, and I'm really glad that he's got that program off the ground. We can transition to another school in Texas, where in Arlington they had the conference championship for the Big 12, and TCU really they came out really sluggish to start the game, and they lost in the rematch, and everyone was. I've been skeptical because of the way the playoff committee has treated the Big 12 in recent years, most notably 2014. But it ended up not mattering. They got in anyways. Max Duggan's performance was incredible. You could really just see that he willed that team to get back in that game down 2 scores, kind of like he did in the Baylor game, just couldn't come up with a finish. Um, and I mean, you could make a case for him to be the Heisman winner, but even though I don't think he will be, and he's not mine, but he's, I could see why TCU fans would be pissed off. You watch some of that game, Matt?
Yeah, man. I fell asleep in the second half, but what you saw from Duggan there is really what you've seen from him throughout his career. Like maybe not at that level, but he's always
Yeah,
kind of had that. He's definitely always had that dog in him. Like he's a tough leader. He's got some moxie, and the dude is like Harbaugh was saying, previewing them. He's like, can't wait to go against a competitor of that magnitude. Like that's going to raise our level up, and genuinely
yeah,
is, man. Like he's a great college quarterback. Does it translate?
yeah.
I don't know, but he's a great college quarterback.
Yeah, he's perfect for them. He's perfect for the air raid. He's a really willing runner. Like he loves running and he
He's a
loves
fullback,
getting
really,
hit.
dude.
Yeah.
He ain't a tailback. He's a fullback. But
He treats his body that way, which led to some injuries even in that game.
yeah,
But
definitely.
he's a warrior and a competitor, like Harbaugh said, and it was it's surprising that they didn't have more offensive consistency at the beginning of the game. Otherwise, they probably would have ran. But Kansas State's got one of the best defenses in the Big 12. And as we'll talk about on the Homer pod, the flyover defense is a three high safety look with three down linemen. That's pretty common. There's 5 teams in the Big 12 that run it.
Hmm.
And it's difficult to figure out when the coach knows what he's doing and he's a good teacher.
Yeah, I think that it's really hard to beat a team twice, and Kansas
Yeah,
State has a very good head coach who knows what he's doing and
yeah,
has good staff around him. So I think that is the biggest advantage or disadvantage you'll find in a rematch, and that will show
yeah,
you the most is not necessarily the players. If it was a close game the first, or at least a competitive game the first time around, you'll really see what the staffs are made of the second time around in that rematch. And Kansas State showed
yeah.
out, man. Hats off to them. They won. Chris Kleeman won a Big 12 title. It would have been great for TCU to finish that run and go 13-0. I
Yeah.
think we'll talk about the playoff a little later, but if USC wins the night before, I'm not so sure TCU doesn't fall out with that.
Oh, they definitely fall out. There's no way it would have been USC and Ohio State.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
USC would have moved up, and Ohio State would have just slid into four there. But that's another story for another day. So, yeah, we got Big 12 champs, Kansas State, down in the SEC. We had Georgia give up like 500 yards of offense to LSU and 30 points, but they put up 50, so it really didn't matter.
Yeah. Um, yeah, the offense just rolled. It's just anytime it's Georgia, it's never like one player dominating. It's just their entire offense. One guy makes a play and then the defense tries to focus in on him, and then another guy makes a play, and then their running back, either one of them, magically has a 20-yard run. And it's just like they're so efficient at what they do, and they have so many options because of how good they recruited that
Mhm.
they can score points in bunches. I think their offense doesn't have the outside playmakers that it may have had last year, even though I wasn't really impressed with their outside playmakers last year. It really starts with their tight ends. It's all about their tight ends, and they really get the ball rolling for everything else that they want to do. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
I think that with Georgia, like you said, they're so damn efficient, and they don't have. I mean, Brock Bowers is a superstar, but outside of him, they don't have any superstars. But they got a lot of dudes who can just play ball. And their
Yeah,
running backs this year, not nearly what they were a year ago. But they can still, like you said, when you're worried about 10, 15 different things, a well-designed play, a well-timed play is going to chunk you. And that's kind of what they do in their run game. They don't pound it down
yeah,
your throat. They can. They're big. They're a top three physical team in the country. I would say, I'd argue, as far as physicality goes, but that's not necessarily like what they're trying to do. Uh,
yeah.
Todd
I
Monken's just
mean,
laughing with all of the possibilities he has. Could you imagine as an
yeah.
OC?
I mean, it's incredible, and I know it's hard to prepare for defenses when you have so many options. I mean, they do consistently run the ball about 40 times a game, which is relatively high
Yeah,
for most teams. I mean, they've
they run out the
like you
clock
said,
most
they
games
don't.
too.
Yeah, um, it's I would think Kendall Milton is a really special back. I don't think he's got to split the load, so I don't know if he'll ever be able to showcase that fully. And I like Rocky McIntosh a lot too. So I do like their running backs. Darnell Washington. Some have him as a first rounder. I don't think he'll ever get there for me.
Absolutely
I
not.
think he's a day two player. I think his traits are really intriguing from a scouting perspective and a team building perspective.
Yeah, he's not
I
going to
think,
fit in every offense. He's essentially an offense. I mean, as all good tight ends are, they're offensive tackles that can
yeah,
run and catch, but he genuinely is because he's 6'7", 270, something like that. It's kind of reminiscent of Michael Williams from Alabama a long time ago, who for a time was running around catching some balls in the red zone and stuff like that. But Darnell obviously can stretch the field a little bit more than that.
yeah. I kind of like their offensive weapons more than I did last year's. Obviously, they still had Brock Bowers, but I think they're getting. I think everyone's this year. It's more of everyone knows their role and everyone
Mhm.
knows that everyone's going to eat because they're so good. So
Right.
everyone, it's just a well-oiled machine.
Every
Defensively,
everyone's cool with
I
it.
don't
Yeah.
think defensively, I don't think they're as talented as they were last year from a like a veteran perspective. Like their linebackers last year were always in the right spot, always reading the play, and their defensive line was super stacked. And they've got really good players, and I'm not saying that at all. And they're young, and
Yeah.
they don't have the football IQ that they did last year defensively.
You're not that's not a hot take. I mean, their defense is not what it was last year. It's still elite, but last
Yeah,
year was like suffocating. How many first round picks can you have? Like,
yeah,
the OG Bama defenses where you can grab a screenshot of their starting lineup on CBS and it's like, okay, all of these dudes are in the league right now, and
yeah,
playing at a high level. Like not
yeah,
just like, oh yeah, he signed a deal out of camp. Like, no, that dude went in the third round and now he's starting. Like all
yeah,
11 of them. So no, I mean, Jalen Carter getting healthy, him picking up Jaden Daniels, like Twitter lost its mind and rightfully so, because it was like mid play and he kind of gave up because he knew he literally just had his hand on Jaden Daniels and he's like, I'm gonna pick this dude up, and he literally just picked him up
yeah.
and put his fist up in the air, and it was just like, oh my god, dude, that's what happens like when the varsity scrimmages the freshmen, you know?
Yeah, he's a top five pick,
Right.
and I think Keely Ringo will be another first round pick on that defense.
Hmm.
Other than that, maybe Nolan Smith goes first round after good scouting, but he's hurt,
He's
so I'm
got the
not even
injury.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
I'm
he was
not sure
there,
he'll
obviously
go
he would
first
be that
round.
veteran presence there, I think.
Yeah,
Because I know Carter's a junior, and I think Ringo's like a red shirt sophomore. So
yeah,
there's Nolan Smith is fourth or fifth year guy, but yeah, they lost him a couple weeks ago. In the
yeah,
ACC, I didn't watch much of that game because we were busy at the time with the Big Ten championship, and it was never really in doubt from any time we flipped over there. Clemson was handling North Carolina. Surprisingly, honestly, we both thought that North Carolina would test them offensively.
yeah. It really seems like the last 3 weeks of North Carolina's season, for whatever reason, their offense is just in a funk
Yeah,
and can't get out of it. I mean, to only put up 10 points after what they've been doing all year is just, and the weapons they have at running back. And Josh Downs he's small, but he's so explosive and can get open with ease. And I mean, he went off, but the rest of their team did not. And it's just not something that you want to see you don't want to see an offense regress at the end of the year.
no,
Yeah, like we've
not at
talked
this
about.
point.
Yeah, like we've talked about many times. It's something that you want to get better towards the end of the year. You don't want to get worse. Like you don't want to stay the same because that means you're getting
Hmm.
worse.
No, they
Um,
definitely were not playing their best ball at the right time.
yeah, but I came back and watched this game over the weekend. And man, they were so quick. Dabo didn't play around. I think he knew that they couldn't afford to lose this with the talent disparity that he's got.
Right.
And they pulled DJU quick, and K took over from there. And he just so like he carried the offense like he'd been there for 3 years when he's a freshman. Now, no true freshman at this point in the year I would consider a freshman. I think you and me would consider them sophomores by now, just because
Yeah.
they've gone through an entire season.
If you've done what you're
Uh,
supposed to do, you're not a freshman at the end of your freshman season.
yeah, and Cade, it's going to be really fun to watch him next year. I really hope that for his sake, not because I'm a Clemson fan. I don't really care one way or the other if what happens to Clemson, because I love football. But for Cade, the person, I really hope that they can keep some of the talented offensive linemen that they've got committed in this 2023 class and keep them committed because they need some help on that offensive line. It's something I brought up to you at the beginning of the year. It's just Clemson has always been good on the outside. They didn't have that this year, but they've never really recruited well on the offensive line for whatever reason. It just hasn't clicked there. Even when they had Watson and Lawrence, like they're off, they had what one offensive lineman drafted by the Bengals. Um, he's their highest
Patrick
draft pick at
Carmen. Yeah,
offensive
I'm not
line.
sure. I'm
Yeah,
not sure where Mitch Hyatt is. Wasn't he a Cowboy?
yeah, but he was on the practice squad. He was like
So he's bouncing
French.
around somewhere then too. Yeah,
Yeah,
Jackson Carmen, highly rated at one point. Was talked about as like a first round left tackle type of guy, but I think he's made probably some spot starts for Cincinnati at guard. Drafted as a guard.
yeah,
He's going to play
yeah,
guard at the end of his Clemson career. But yeah, you're right, man. They haven't had the Twitter narrative of 5-star receivers and Trevor Lawrence. Like Dabo hasn't done much without Taj Boyd and Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson,
yeah.
quite frankly. So no, not yet. Yeah, so we will brush over Big Ten championship game, Michigan back-to-back champs. We will talk about that in the Homer Pod. If you're interested in that whatsoever, come find us over on the Homer Pod.
Yeah.
From there, so let's talk. We'll talk playoffs, and then we'll get into Heisman, and then we'll finish with coaching carousel. So playoffs, we got Georgia 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, Ohio State 4. So this Georgia Ohio State matchup is pretty intriguing, and it's going to be a great game to watch live, and then definitely like upon review for scouting purposes.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this: if CJ Stroud hopes to make my quarterback one ranking at any point, he better show out in this game, win or lose. Because if he shows out and they lose by like 3 points, then I'll still be impressed. But
Yeah.
Georgia's gonna. I think they're gonna follow Michigan's game plan as far as make them earn it down the field. Don't give up big plays, which is hard to do against them. But at the same time, like if you can move him off his spot and you can get him frustrated, he's not nearly the same quarterback that
Yep.
he is when he usually is. But their offensive weapons can give Georgia some problems, especially Georgia's secondary. They've got Ringo, and one of the safeties is really good, and the rest of the secondary is like leaves some to be desired, even though they're highly rated prospects.
Yeah, it all depends
So
on. I mean, Ryan Day's talked a big game so far about new lease on life, and they're going to be aggressive and go at people and all this and all that. And like you were just saying about Stroud, like you need to see out of him what we haven't seen, which I hate using the phrase, but it's just the most relatable thing. He ain't got that dog in him, and you want to see him come out there and put his balls on the table and take over a game and have moxie and make plays, step up, scramble, do what he's got to do. He didn't do it last year against Michigan. He didn't do it this year against Michigan, and there aren't any bigger games for that team. So it
yeah,
is concerning.
the only time that he's done it is the only time he's done it is the Rose Bowl last year against Utah, where
Mm-hmm.
Utah would go step to step with them, but Stroud always had an answer and was like, "No, we're not losing this game."
Yep.
And that was without two first round receivers.
Yeah, that was
Um,
without Wilson and Olave. So
and
yeah,
so
they'll need to do
that's
that
the only time
again.
he's shown it.
They'll need to do that again against Georgia to pull out that game. They're not going to walk in there and punch Georgia in the mouth. They're not going to execute down the field and then execute in the red zone. Like they're going to have to take the top off the defense. They're going to
Yeah.
have to make Georgia uncomfortable from the get-go, and Stroud's going to have an answer all night, every snap.
I promise you this. After what Michigan did, Todd Monken is like he's giddy to get his tight ends up against these safeties
My
because
Lord.
Michigan picked on both of them so much, and
Mm-hmm.
I with Bowers and Washington, I can't imagine what they have cooked up
Yeah.
for that.
So I mean, the only thing that we'll see different is they're not going to have 9-10 guys in the box against Georgia, and they won't be
Yeah,
able to. So the structure of the defense is a little bit different. But Georgia's not really, Michigan feasted on big plays in that game. It's not exactly Georgia's MO because, like we said, they're hyper efficient and they're that team that can get into the red zone and then they punch it into the red zone. So, it's going to look a little bit different stylistically. But yeah, Georgia should have the same game plan. Go in there, enforce your will, win in the trenches, which they can. They're better on both sides of the ball up front. And that should really be it. That
Yeah,
should be a wrap.
I want to see how Ohio State responds because they've got a lot of on the line in this game. A lot of as far as like pride,
Mm-hmm.
program pride, because
Perception,
yeah, because for the
reputation. Yeah.
yeah,
Personal pride. And then for the program, like the outside factors, the noise, which is crazy because Ryan Day's 45-5, but the outside noise will get very, very loud if they go against Georgia. If they lay an egg against Georgia, it's bad. It'll be real bad.
yeah,
If they compete with Georgia, I mean, I don't know. The what we've seen from their fan base the last 2 weeks is insane. They've gone from like crying and wanting Ryan Day fired to talking about the Michigan game was a fluke and they're gonna whoop Georgia's ass and like, oh, Michigan doesn't want a rematch. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, all have lost your mind.
yeah. It's I guess their fan base is in a little bit of denial right now. I'm not. I would. I don't. I would hate a rematch, but like a rematch at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's different parts of me that wants a rematch, and there's a lot of part of me that doesn't want it. And it's just like, what is it? The two wolves inside me.
Yeah,
My competitor is like, let's fucking go. You think it was a fluke 2 years in a row? Like, all right, why would we be scared on a
yeah,
neutral field? And then the
yeah,
fan in me is just like, I can't handle that.
yeah,
These two fan bases, this world was not meant for those two teams to see each other in football more than once a year.
yeah.
So
Well, with expansion coming, that we'll probably get it at one point or another.
good chance. The only thing, I was talking to a guy at work about this, we were mentioning rematch and whatnot, and I was like, well, D2, FCS might be the same, maybe not FCS, but I know like D2, a lot of it's based off of region. And so like teams that are close together get paired together. It's why, Ferris and Grand Valley played last weekend. But in this, it's like pure seeding. So
Oh yeah,
it's certainly possible that we could have
yeah,
we could be at Ohio State in season and then play them in the big house in the postseason or vice versa. I mean, it's totally possible.
yeah,
Just because we're close in geography, it doesn't mean that it's a total given.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
let's talk. We can talk. We can have a whole bowl game special pod if you want, but we want to talk coaching carousel. We got about 8 minutes left here, and I know we got some thoughts on there.
Yeah, we can talk coaching carousel.
Where do you want to
We
start?
kind of talked. We talked about Freeze last week, and we talked
Yep.
about Rule. Scott Satterfield just giving Louisville like the deuces.
What a weird marriage because he's been there for a couple years now.
Yeah, I think this has been his third year,
It's at least year 3.
but the thing that has me, it's kind of like he left because the fan base and the alumni have always kind of like secretly wanted Jeff Brom.
Yeah.
And so anytime that he's mediocre, like every offseason, it's like, well, let's not sign him to an extension because we want Jeff Brom. And so
Jeff
maybe he
Brom's doing
got
good for
tired of
you.
that. Maybe got tired of that and was like, I'll get out of here as quick as I can. And Cincinnati's the best job because Cincinnati's a really good job, especially with them moving to the Big 12 this upcoming year.
They care. They want to win. Yeah, man. They're a playoff team last year. They're a year removed from
Yeah,
the playoffs.
yeah,
I was shocked by the backlash of that move on Twitter. And it wasn't from fans, it wasn't from pundits, it wasn't from people like me and you. It was his former players
yeah,
throwing him under the bus, putting all his business on blast. Like that is the number one sign of like, oh wow, like this dude was not loved or even appreciated in that locker room. Like this guy is an asshole.
yeah,
Straight up and down. For a player to take straight to Twitter and put all the business out there. Like, yo, this dude's a straight fraud. Like, I've heard those words before. Like, everybody had something to say about it. No one was happy. And it was just like, man, this guy ain't it.
Yeah, that was peculiar. And then I found out that he basically zoomed the team and told him that he was leaving, and
Yeah.
I'm just not
Video
okay with
chat.
that. Like, be a man and do it in person. Like, I mean, yeah, that's just not okay with me,
Y'all.
especially with kids that parents. I mean, they entrusted their sons to you
Yeah.
to mold them, and you're just like, Zoom call. Hey guys, took a new job. I'm already there. See you later.
Yeah. Not coaching in the bowl game. Whatever. Thanks,
Yeah,
fellas. Thanks for helping me earn this new position.
yeah,
Yeah, it's odd, it's strange, and like, yeah, it's not a comfortable situation. It's not an easy thing to talk about, but it's part of the job. It
yeah,
comes with the territory, and you know that when you sign your name on the dotted line.
yeah,
I'm not sure. I can't recall. Did we talk Fickle at Wisconsin last week? I
yeah.
can't
We
remember when
talked
that
about
happened.
that. Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
Fickle's
We
there.
talked about it at the end.
I believe from everything I haven't seen Jim Leonard leave yet. I haven't seen him announced yet either. So it kind of sounds like Jim Leonard's going to end up staying on.
Oh, I
Uh,
sent you a tweet a few days
yeah,
ago.
you're right. Yep,
He's
you
staying
did.
on. He's staying on
And
as
then you
DC,
sent
which
me,
is weird because Fickle and him run kind of two different systems. So I thought that was a little odd. But at the same time, Fickle the last couple of years has run more odd man fronts than usual. So I guess it's not really that different now. But back when he was at Ohio State and other places, he was strictly 4 man.
mhm.
Um, so
And then you sent
um,
me the tweet just a little bit ago. It sounds like Braylon Allen's probably going to end up staying in Wisconsin, which would be a major plus for Fickle and them.
Yeah, man, the transfer portal's going nuts. There's over 1,000 kids in the transfer portal already. Some of these kids are going to end up out in the cold, so I kind of feel bad for them. Some of them probably got bad information from people close to them that are trying to use them.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, the transfer portal, it's going to get wild. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Some of the ones that we thought might enter the draft are going in the transfer portal and taking another year instead,
Yeah. Yep.
which kind of makes this quarterback class a little worse.
I mean,
But
to be honest, bro, it was like 2025 deep, like names that we're going to have to seriously consider. And
yeah,
so, like, I'm honestly all right with a lot of these guys transferring and coming back for another year. There's at least 5 or 6 names
yeah,
on this list right here in front of us that we would have been scouting that now they're off the table.
yeah, man, it's cool to
It's
see. It's
crazy.
it's kind of the thing that I like about the transfer portal is one, it allows kids like the freedom to leave a situation they don't want to be in and capitalize on their name, which is cool. But at the same time, it's cool to see like all these recruiting battles that like Michigan or Texas lost, and like I was
Hey, you
really
get back
honed in
into it.
on this kid, and like, oh,
Yeah.
he entered the portal. Oh,
Yep.
former 5 star entered
Miles
the
Hinton at
portal.
Stanford.
Yeah,
Come back to me. You said,
yeah,
come home, baby. Just come on home where
yeah,
you should have been from the get go. Yeah. And that's
yeah,
how the coaches feel too. Like, did I delete that kid's number? Like,
yeah, exactly.
um,
Yeah, so I mean, coaching relationships matter more than ever now.
mhm.
Because you never know when a kid gets unhappy. I mean, 18, 19-year-olds are unpredictable. I know I was when I was that age. I'm sure y'all had your moments too.
Yeah. One thing we glossed over in the coaching carousel, which we won't spend much time on because we only got 2 minutes left here. Dion is now the coach at Colorado. Uh, a lot of people have taken umbrage with how he left Jackson State, and he's taken a lot of grief over the last couple days. I I'll just say on the front end, he's not for me. He's not my cup of tea as far as coaching goes. It's something that I take very seriously, and I don't always appreciate the way that he goes about it. So, I'll just leave it at that. I got a lot more I could say, but we don't really need to get into it. I think that he sounds like he's forming a damn good staff around him. If he ends up getting Mike Zimmer as DC, and Sean Lewis is the OC, where he ain't gonna have to do much, and that's
Yeah.
probably
Plus
what he wants.
Andy's bringing Tim Brewster along with him too.
My God, Tim Brewster, dude, now you pissed me off, dude. Tim Brewster
I
is you.
knew.
You
I
look up
knew.
snake oil salesman in the dictionary, and
Yeah.
Tim Brewster's smiling next to it. That dude is a scumbag, man. I can't believe Hugh Freeze didn't scoop him up.
Yeah.
That dude,
I'm
my
actually a little
God.
surprised at that too.
Honestly, dude, they're two peas,
Yeah.
same pod, man.
Yeah.
Tim Brewster, get out of here. Well, all right, y'all. That was the national pod. We're gonna have some different things going for y'all going forward. It's almost draft season. That will start after the Army Navy game this upcoming weekend. So expect a little bit of a different national pod next week. Appreciate you tuning in. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Patreon at the 425. So thanks for tuning in, y'all. See you next week.
But that's how I am.